teaching, naked truth. So naked teaching, I think it's going to be about truth and love, and we're going to see what that is because I've got a teacher here with us who taught special ed for over 30 years, like 34 years. So Shirley Willis, great to have you on with us today.
It is wonderful to be here and so nice to meet you.
I tell you, I think teaching is maybe the most difficult profession because you're dealing with human beings, little human beings in the formation stages, and special ed. Oh my goodness, what was that like teaching special ed for so many years?
It was the most fascinating experience I can tell you about. You're always learning. There's always a new challenge. There's always a new kind of kid that you're going to work with. You think, okay, I've got this autism thing down, but then the next kid comes along and the next kid, and it's different for every one of them.
So you have to kind of relearn. You have to readjust your teaching, you know, to fit them all.
And if you're an inclusion specialist, as I was, you're in every class. You're in AP classes, you're in physics, you're in the basic math classes, and so you get to learn right along with the students and modify their work for them so that they can have success.
And you like this job?
I loved it. I loved it.
But it wasn't your first choice.
It was not my first choice. What do you know when you're, when you're young?
That's exactly right.
I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a journalist, but there were no jobs. And my advisor, my college advisor said, be an educator. You'll have a job. I had a child at the time, so that was kind of important. I was a little later getting into
That's interesting because my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a little Swiss lady, always, all her kids became teachers. She said, be a teacher, because in the Depression, nobody had jobs but teachers. And so I actually took some elementary ed in university, and then I took a semester and said, no way, I can't do that. So I went into something else.
I said that every day.
And then I became a journalist. Ta-da, who knew? I never planned on being a journalist, so you never know where life is going to take you.
You don't, but you discover your tribe and you stick with them.
But it turned out so wonderful for you. It's something that you really, really love. Now, you have written a book called Naked Teaching. Oh, I tell you, I had a blast promoting this one. Naked Teaching, you know. A love story is what you call it. Why did you write this book?
Well, first of all, it's not the book that I set out to write. I had been in education for all those years, and so I was writing little stories after I retired, pleasant little stories, you know, about how it was to be retired, and I started my Sedona story. Everybody who lives here starts their Sedona story, I'm told. And I was having fun with that. And at the back of my mind, you know, at the edge of my keyboard, the kids' voices kept saying, write about me, write about me, write about me, tell stories about me. And I kept ignoring them because that would be too hard.
Because I imagine there's all kinds of privacy issues in the sense, or how do you express it?
It was overwhelming. And then I saw this article in the newspaper, long about March after I retired, and it was about testing, and it was about the schedule for testing. And the voices got louder and louder. Remember, that's the area of my biggest challenge is the tests. And so I had to start writing. So I started writing the little stories, just, you know, just anecdotal stories. And as I wrote them, I realized this is a book I wish I'd had before I started teaching.
So it became more of an instruction kind of a book?
At first, yeah, at first it was like that. It was more anecdotal. And then I thought it needs a broader appeal. It needs to speak to teachers. It needs to speak to parents. And so the book sort of formed itself into a story, and that became a novel.
So why did you call it Naked Teaching, a love story?
Well, you know those dreams you have when you're on your way to work and you get there and you're naked. You forget your shoes, or your shoes don't match. Well, that's the way it feels to teach in Arizona when you walk into a classroom and you literally have to create the learning situation from the ground up. You either have to buy or borrow or go to yard sales to actually support your classroom. So every day I felt like I didn't have books, I didn't have supplies. You're always shopping for your classroom. So I did feel naked here,
Oh my
more than any
goodness.
other place
Were you
I'd
in the
ever
valley?
taught.
Where did you teach most of your
I taught
career then, Shirley?
rural northern Arizona.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
for
good.
2
So-
years. For 2 years. Before that, I had taught many years in Maine. Big difference.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, I've always had a fascination with Maine for some reason. You know, those craggy coasts and you
The
know.
boats, the sailboats.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I haven't even been there yet. But okay, so is naked teaching? Then you kind of said it, but is it a memoir? It's true, or is there some fiction?
It's an autobiographical novel. Remember Up the Down Staircase?
Oh, yeah.
That's an autobiographical novel.
Okay.
So it's
Sandy
based
Dennis did the
it's-
movie, didn't she?
Yes,
I remember
yes.
that.
And Belle Kaufman, I saw an interview of her. She was 103 in the interview,
Goodness.
and she was dynamite. I'd like to be that vibrant at, you know.
At 70, I
Yeah.
don't know, wherever,
So-
you know. I
So
mean,
it's based. So the book is based on real experiences, but it is. The characters are blended. The situations are blended. It's sequenced so that it makes a story, makes it more readable, and it makes it more applicable to more
And what
situations.
do you want people to get out of Naked Teaching a Love Story?
The most important thing to remember about schools and teaching and children is that every one of those children is different. They're somebody's precious son or daughter. They have their own hopes and their own motivations, and they can't be categorized.
Don't just smash them into
Yeah,
a mold.
and special ed is not necessarily what people think it is. That there are kids who are I worked with one kid with 156 IQ, for instance,
Wow.
in special ed, who had some significant behavior problems, as you might imagine.
Too smart. Sometimes the savants can't tie their
Sometimes,
shoes, and yet
yeah.
they can.
He
do
was on the
things.
spectrum.
Yeah,
autism,
amazing.
Yeah.
All kinds of experiences in here. Naked Truth, a love story, your love of teaching special education students of all ranges and scope, and who knows, we're going to learn a lot from this book.
Oh,
and
I
it's
hope so.
available worldwide, Amazon.com?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Shirley Willis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Again, thank you.
All right, and another book, we'll watch for that.
Okay, good.